Throughout most of human history, the strong alpha males, they're the ones that got most of the women. It was a trade-off. Men provided protection and resources. The women raised the children. That continued his DNA and his family line. He would get his choice of the women, and the other men, the warriors, they would get the other women. Now, what do we see today? Women want the tallest, the most athletic, the best looking, all indicators of good genes. It's just built into them to want that. They want the most confident man and the man that all the other women frankly wanted. We have a name for that man today. Today, we call him Chad. Now, in some cases, you're in a city with, I don't know, a few million people, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. So how could women end up dating the same guys? I mean, you got all these guys out there. How could that happen? It's obvious to anybody who's rational and logical. They're choosing the same men because those men have all the qualities, traits, attributes that they are attracted to. Nothing's changed. This is the same thing that's happened throughout human history. Most of the men are invisible and they're going to get ignored. But you see that now that women have a bigger choice, they're falling back to some of those natural instincts. They're swiping past the bottom 80% of men. And what did the men do? The men, they're desperate, they want attention, they want the woman's attention. So they'll tell her anything, thinking somehow that's going to work. They'll get in her DMs, tell her how beautiful and gorgeous she is and everything. Like, she doesn't hear that all the time from every other simp. You know what she's going to do? She's just going to ignore him, continue to chase Chad, and compete with all the other women for the prize. And that would be the alpha male, the top guy. Now, many women get angry. When these simps try to contact them and get them to, try to get the women to date them. Why do they do that? It's because, they're desperate to pass on their genes, their DNA. Why do the women get angry? Because they feel like these men have a lot of nerve asking them to date them when they're obviously out of that man's league. And if he's thinking he can date them, then he must be thinking that they are in his league. So it's like an insult, a slap in the face to them. That's their natural repulsion. How dare you? So these men are called creeps. What's funny is that they've done experiments. I've seen them on different YouTube channels where you have a good looking guy and he'll say something to the woman, even if it might be slightly offensive or whatever, and she'll just laugh it off because, he's tall, good looking, everything. And she just thinks, well, he's just being confident. But if somebody who's not attractive to her says that something like that, he's a creep. He needs to get out of there. So it's not really what he's saying or even all the time how he's saying it. It's who he is, where he stands in the social hierarchy and the pecking order. Now, sometimes these women build a relationship with even these simp type guys, and the reason is because they need a handyman, somebody to come over and work around the house for them. Not the way they don't have to pay somebody. And they also need somebody sometimes to give them money. Maybe they'll give them a story and the guy will send them some money, help them out or whatever. So he's just kind of there to fulfill a need. Sometimes she'll want to talk about the horrible man she went on a date with. And of course, she's going to get all the sympathy in the world from the simp because he's going to want to please her and appease her. So he's going to say and do anything that he thinks might do that. But once again, it's a turnoff. She's not attracted to that. Now, back in my day, that's what old people used to say. And I guess now that I'm in my 60s, I qualify, so I can go ahead and use that term. Anyway, we didn't have social media, obviously. Everything was local when it came to dating. Sims didn't have 24-hour access to jump into a woman's DMs. And they were too afraid to talk to her socially anyway. And chances are they were trying to go up and talk to them. Uh, they would get harshly rejected, or they might suffer consequences from the girl's boyfriend. Also, back then, cheating was frowned upon. I know people did it. People have always done that throughout all of human history. It's just clearly it's always happened. But socially, it was frowned upon, and there was more loyalty because of that on both sides. Marriages lasted longer and tended to be more stable, so you had children as an effect that were more stable. So things are different now, but are people really happier? I don't see it, and if anything, I see it as people are less happy. It's like they can't seem to find what they want, and have problems and issues with relationships. Of course, because of the economy and because of those issues with relationships, there's fewer marriages, fewer children. So things are not getting better as far as relationships are concerned. Now, people are social by nature. There is a biological drive to continue the species, as we see in all creatures on the face of the earth, including humans. I met a woman when I was down in Bogota, Colombia, and we were together for about 6 months, but that didn't work out either. So after a while, you start thinking, well, maybe it's me or whatever. I'm clearly not perfect by any means, but I just felt like the kind of woman that I was looking for must be out there somewhere. Decided not to date anymore, and there was a while where I wasn't dating, and actually I was pretty happy. I didn't plan on dating again, really, but I don't know. I woke up one morning and just felt like, okay, I'll give it one last chance. And a couple of, well, one person that I knew in particular had married somebody over in the Philippines, and he seemed to be pretty happy. So I thought, well, I'll give that a try. Never been to the Philippines, but we'll see what happens. I went to philippinecupid.com. Not really a plug per se for them. I don't know how things are now on that site, but back then it was pretty decent. I had a lot of women that I had a chance to talk to, do FaceTime with and get to know, but still didn't find anybody right away. It was a little while until I finally found my wife on there. But really, it was the best decision that I've ever made. Now, I've mentioned a little bit of this before in my other video, but you want to make sure if you do this that you avoid the big cities. Don't go to any of the large cities and look for women, because the chances are they're going to be a lot more sophisticated. They're a lot more partying, and they're just not what you'd be wanting to look for in many cases for a wife. And even though there may be some here and there in the big city, there's a lot that are not. A lot of women go to the big city specifically to find a different lifestyle or whatever. So I just say avoid it. Avoid it altogether. Just look at the smaller towns. Find a local girl that's, a little more traditional, and is looking to get serious, start a family, because some of these other countries are very family oriented, and that's what she's looking for. So if you are serious about looking for that, if you're not going over there to be a player or something, because to me, guys like that, they're wasting their time. It's like they feel like they can run around and party all the time. That gets old. Eventually, you're going to grow up and realize that that's not the life where you're going to find any real fulfillment. So I'm not saying this for everyone, but if you're in this looking for a serious relationship, then this will help expand your options, give you probably more likelihood of finding somebody that would meet your criteria for somebody that you want to marry, frankly. One thing I can say is that the population problem that's happening around the world, it's not getting any better, and I think it's just going to get worse over time. So people in general, they need to find a solution to this because uh, they did a study on mice. It was called the Beautiful Mice study because the mice would spend all their time grooming themselves and they stopped mating. They were in a perfect ideal condition. But eventually, and it wasn't because of overpopulation, eventually, having no challenge in front of them, just getting everything that they wanted, they just began to lose interest. And it was only a matter of time. And they began decreasing in population and decreasing and decreasing until finally there was no more rat population, so mice population. But that's the direction that we're going in our culture. Around the world, in most countries, the populations are shrinking. So that's not a good direction to go because, it's obviously bad for humanity. So we need to figure out a solution to this. But anyway, today, that's my spin on